All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's pretty huge. Let's be real, it's affecting all of us, but it's something that you, GCSE geography a lot, are going to be wrestling with in your studies, climate change.
Yeah, climate change.
And specifically, we're going to be looking at how climate change is impacting natural hazards and how that's playing out, especially for us here in the UK. So to kick things off, can we just kind of get a little baseline understanding? Everyone kind of throws around the term climate change, but what does it actually mean?
Well, the simplest way to think about it is that climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. So we're not just talking about a random hot summer here or there, it's about these big overarching changes happening over a long period of time.
Okay, and I know that this is something that, we kind of learn about this from a really early age, the greenhouse effect, but how does that play into all of this?
Right, so the greenhouse effect is actually a natural process. You've got certain gases in the atmosphere, things like carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, and they trap some of the sun's heat, which keeps the Earth warm enough to support life. It's like a cozy blanket for the planet.
Oh, okay, so it's like a good thing in a way.
Yeah, to a certain extent. The problem is that human activities like burning fossil fuels for energy and deforestation are pumping way more of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Ah, okay, so it's like we're adding extra blankets, and the planet's getting a bit too toasty?
Exactly. It's like we've cranked up the thermostat too high. And this enhanced greenhouse effect leads to global warming, which then triggers all sorts of knock-on effects, including, yeah, changes in weather patterns and an increase in natural hazards.
Okay, so now we're kind of getting into the nitty-gritty. So for our listeners out there, just a quick reminder that natural hazards are those extreme events that can cause serious damage, like floods, heat waves, droughts, all that fun stuff.
Right, all the stuff we see on the news and think, whoa, that's scary.
Exactly. So how is climate change actually, like, messing with these natural hazards? Like, how does it actually work?
Well, it's all interconnected. Take heat waves, for example. With global temperatures on the rise, those scorching hot days we used to get every once in a while are becoming more frequent and intense. Like, imagine summers where it's regularly over 30 degrees Celsius, even in the UK.
Hmm.
That's not just uncomfortable, it's a serious health risk, especially for vulnerable people.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely not just like, oh, it's a nice hot day, let's go to the beach kind of thing. It's serious.
Absolutely. And the thing is that heat doesn't just affect us directly, it also dries out the land, making it more susceptible to wildfires. Remember those wildfires we had in the UK a few years back? Those are pretty shocking for a lot of people, and well, those are likely to become more common as those dry spells get longer and hotter.
Okay, so that's heat waves. But what about other things like, I don't know, floods or storms? How's climate change impacting those?
Well, warmer temperatures also mean that the atmosphere can hold more moisture. Think of it like a sponge. A warmer sponge can soak up more water, and when all that extra moisture eventually gets released, you get heavier rainfall, which can lead to, you guessed it, more frequent and severe flooding.
Oh, right, I see. So it's kind of like a domino effect.
Exactly, and it doesn't stop there. That warmer atmosphere can also fuel more powerful storms and hurricanes with stronger winds and heavier rainfall.
Okay, so it's kind of like all these natural hazards are getting a bit of a boost from climate change, a bit of a power up, if you will. And I know we talked about the UK specifically, so can you give us some examples of how climate change is impacting the severity of these hazards, right here on our doorstep?
Sure. Well, take the floods that hit South Wales in 2020. Climate change made those extreme rainfall events more likely, causing widespread damage and disruption. And then there was the heat wave back in 2018. Remember how scorching it was? Well, these kinds of extreme temperatures are becoming more frequent, which puts a strain on everything from our health services to our infrastructure.
Yeah, that's kind of scary to think about. I mean, what does this actually mean for like the average person living in the UK? Like, how is this going to change our lives?
Well, on a practical level, we'll need to adapt to these changes. Think about things like building stronger sea defenses to protect coastal communities from rising sea levels, or changing farming practices to cope with those hotter, drier summers. We might even need to design buildings that can better withstand extreme heat.
Wow, so it's like a whole societal shift. Okay, so that's a lot to take in. But before we wrap up, I have to ask you, what's the one thing that really stood out to you, as you were looking into all of this? What's the thing that really made you think, wow, we need to pay attention to this?
I think for me, it's the fact that climate change isn't just this abstract concept, it's happening now.
Yeah.
And it's having real, tangible impacts on our lives. And those impacts are only going to become more pronounced in the future.
It's not just about polar bears on melting ice caps anymore. It's hitting closer to home.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the message we really need to get across. This is a global issue, but it's affecting each and every one of us, particularly here in the UK.
Okay, well, that was a pretty intense deep dive, wasn't it? I don't know about you all listening, but I've definitely got some food for thought. Big thanks to you for coming on and helping us unpack all of that.
Yeah, no problem. It's been great chatting about this.
And to everyone listening, now that you've heard all of this, what do you think are some of the things that we can do, both individually and as a society, to tackle these challenges? It's a big question, and there's no easy answers, but it's something we all need to start thinking about. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, stay curious.